All right, so get this. Today's deep dive, right, is uh, it's like we're stumbling onto the ruins of a digital civilization.
Whew.
Yeah, we're talking years and years of messages
Wow.
from this Discord channel
Okay.
called, get this, ewaaac.
ewaaac.
It's rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
It certainly does pique one's curiosity. It's fascinating to me how online spaces they can almost become these self-contained worlds,
Yeah.
each with its own, well, history and language
Yeah.
and, social dynamics and all that.
Exactly. And like instead of, finding pottery shards
Right.
and crumbling walls,
Yeah, yeah.
we've got memes
Uh-huh.
and inside jokes.
Oh, yeah.
And who knows what else we'll find. Right?
Yeah.
I feel like Indiana Jones, but like with a Wi-Fi connection instead of a whiff.
I like it.
So our mission, if we choose to accept it, is to piece together the purpose
Okay.
and the evolution of this ewaaac
ewaaac, yeah.
and try to understand this community that thrived within it. And of course, provide some insight to our bewildered traveler, BoopDoop, who stumbled upon this digital landscape and quite understandably asked, what is this for?
Boop-doop. Oh, boop-doop. If only it were that simple. We're about to find out it's not the destination, but the journey that really defines ewaaac.
Ooh, I like that.
So let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
May 2022. What's funny is that even the origin story of this ewaaac thing is kind of a mystery. The creator, who we know as Soviet, claims that they actually have no memory of creating the channel.
What?
Yeah. And to make things even weirder, the very first message is just balls posted by a now deleted user.
So we're already off to a weird start.
Yeah, definitely in the realm of the absurd. There's an immediate sense of playfulness, a disregard for convention that really sets the tone for what ewaaac becomes.
Yeah.
And this spirit, this energy, it only intensifies as the simple words. They evolve into these increasingly absurd phrases.
Oh, okay.
Like bedmenton.
It's like witnessing the birth of a new language, right?
Literally.
A dialect of pure nonsense.
Uh-huh.
And speaking of nonsense, how did ewaaac itself
Yeah.
come to be the channel's name?
That is the intriguing part. It seems to have emerged organically from this chaotic wordplay. No explanation. No acronym.
Just ewaaac.
Just ewaaac. And the community just rolled with it.
Yeah, they embraced the absurdity.
They didn't just roll with it. They seemed to revel in it.
Yes.
I'm looking at messages here where, like, users declare their love for ewaaac,
Oh.
debating its meaning with, like, the seriousness you would expect from a philosophical treatise. It's like this nonsensical word became a symbol.
A rallying cry for the entire community.
Yes, and around this symbol, a unique culture started to emerge. Inside jokes like "gaywalk" became like a recurring phrase, this playful twist on the original term.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how quickly these shared references can solidify a sense of belonging, They create this space where only the initiated truly understand the language.
It reminds me of those secret societies, with their cryptic symbols and handshakes.
Right.
But in this case, the secret handshake is a misspelled word, and the password is pure absurdity.
And like any society, this one developed its own structure, albeit a humorous one. We see the emergence of a mock ewaaac government with Soviet Trikun, our self-proclaimed architect of chaos.
Oh, yeah.
Outlining the hierarchy of this imperial ewaaac government.
Imperial ewaaac government. Wow.
It's almost like watching a civilization build itself up from scratch, except their building blocks are memes and inside jokes.
And what's a civilization without a good old-fashioned war?
Indeed. The declaration of war against user Vari is particularly illuminating.
Oh, tell me more.
NPC declares, and I quote, "Her Majesty the Empress, my august sovereign, in the name of the ewaaac Empire, accepts the challenge and considers himself at war with Varro."
Wow.
It's delivered with such formality, such grandiosity, that you can't help but just chuckle at the sheer absurdity of it all.
But is it all just absurdity?
Right.
There's a part of me that wonders if this war wasn't also a way for the community to, play with power dynamics, to create a sense of drama, within their shared world.
Okay.
It's like they're writing their own epic saga with Vari as the formidable foe.
That's a very astute observation. On the surface, it's all fun and games, but underneath there might be a deeper exploration of, social dynamics and how even in In a seemingly nonsensical space, we humans still gravitate towards these narratives of conflict
Yeah.
and resolution.
And just when you think things couldn't get any wilder, tragedy strikes. The channel vanishes, deleted from existence. It's like an earthquake suddenly swallowed up this digital city we've been exploring.
The user reactions are priceless.
Oh, yeah.
It's a stark reminder of the ephemeral nature of online spaces.
Yeah.
One minute they're thriving, the next they're gone, leaving behind only digital ghosts. Almost poetic, this vibrant community built on this foundation of shared absurdity,
Yeah.
suddenly silenced.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what other digital treasures have been, lost to the sands of time, their stories untold.
Yeah, it does. We humans are meaning-making machines.
Right.
We crave connection. We search for patterns. We try to make sense of the world around us. So why would a community form around something so deliberately meaningless?
That's the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perhaps in a world that's increasingly demanding, structured, serious, spaces like ewaaac, they offer a much-needed release.
Okay.
They allow us to shed the weight of meaning, revel in the absurd, and connect with others through shared laughter, even if the source of that laughter is, well, utter nonsense.
It's like a collective exhale.
Yeah.
Like a moment of shared absurdity that acts as a counterpoint to the
Yes.
constant barrage of information and demands that we face in our everyday lives.
Precisely, yeah. And within this space of shared nonsense, something remarkable happens. Inside jokes evolve, rituals are formed, and bonds are created. The very act of participating, of contributing to the ongoing stream of absurdity.
Right.
It becomes a way of saying, I belong here.
So to answer, Boop Doop's question,
Yeah.
ewaaac is not about what, but who.
Hmm.
It's about the people who came together to create this unique, ephemeral world, to build a community on a foundation of shared laughter and joyful nonsense.
And speaking of ephemeral, we should acknowledge the elephant in the room,
Oh,
or rather the deleted user in the chat logs.
right.
The presence of deleted user, it serves as a poignant reminder of the transient nature of these online spaces.
Yeah, it adds a layer of mystery, doesn't it?
Totally.
Like, who were they? What role did they play in this digital society? And why did they choose to disappear? It's like finding a blank space in a historical record, a gap in the narrative that we can only speculate about.
It speaks to the idea of digital footprints and how even in a space designed for fleeting humor, our actions leave traces. The decision to delete oneself from the chat, to erase those traces, it adds a layer of intrigue to our archaeological dig.
But before we get too lost in the existential implications of deleted users,
Right.
let's not forget the most dramatic moment in our ewaaac saga, the triumphant return.
Ah, yes, like a phoenix rising from the digital ashes.
Yeah.
The channel reappears.
It's bad.
And the community's reaction, pure elation. Calf77 shouts, and I quote, "Holy fuck ewaaac is back gay."
Wow.
A sentiment echoed by others in all caps and excessive exclamation points. It's almost touching to see how deeply this nonsensical space had impacted them.
It underscores that even in a world of constant digital creation and destruction, there's a real sense of loss when a community vanishes,
Absolutely.
and an even greater sense of relief and joy when it's restored.
It's a testament to the power of these online spaces, to foster genuine connection and belonging, even when built on a foundation of the absurd.
So, Boop Doop, if you're still with us,
Right?
you might be wondering, what now?
Yeah.
Well, dear listener, that's the beauty of a place like
Oh,
ewaaac. It's constantly evolving.
Exactly, yeah. The story doesn't end here. By examining user activity over time,
Right.
we can observe these subtle shifts in the community's dynamics. Some members fade into the background.
While others rise to prominence, new inside jokes emerge,
Yeah.
old ones are reinterpreted, and the cycle of absurdity continues.
It's like watching a coral reef,
Okay.
seemingly chaotic and random, but with an underlying structure and order that emerges as you observe its growth over time. And that brings us to the final and perhaps most intriguing takeaway from our deep dive into ewaaac. Well, MPC, always the voice of ewaac's internal logic, offered an explanation rooted in quantum physics. suggesting that the channel emerged from the sheer randomness of the quantum fluctuations of the vacuum of the universe.
So they're going full...
They're going full theoretical physics on us.
Yeah, it's like it was destined to exist.
It's trying to
The Dweck thing.
defying logic and reason.
A force of nature.
Yeah, and maybe that's the most fitting explanation for a channel that thrives on absurdity and unpredictability.
Right.
It's a space where anything can happen. The rules of reality are bent and broken, and this shared sense of nonsense just creates a surprisingly strong bond between its members.
So to answer Boop Doop's initial question, what is a ewaaac?
Yeah.
It's a space where the absurd reigns supreme. Inside jokes become a language, and even the act of creation is shrouded in mystery.
Right. And that leads us to the next question. Why do people gravitate towards this in the first place?
Right, like what need did it fulfill for its members?
And that's what we'll explore as we continue to delve into the depths of ewaaac.
All right, so stay tuned, listeners, because this deep dive is just getting started.
So, going through all these messages, it's clear that ewaaac wasn't just about, being random.
Yeah.
The humor is very specific.
Okay.
Relies heavily on these inside jokes and this shared understanding of, internet culture.
So for someone like Boop Doop coming into this blind,
Right.
it would be like trying to understand a conversation in another language.
Exactly, and that's what's so fascinating.
Yeah.
They thrived on this shared nonsense. It shows how online communities can bond over incredibly specific, even absurd in-jokes.
Yeah.
It's like a language that only they understand, which
Yep.
strengthens their connection.
So it's like they created their own dialect,
Yeah.
like a secret code that you need to be initiated into this ewaakic world to understand.
Absolutely. But how did this language develop?
Right.
Was it conscious? Was it organic?
Yeah.
It seems to be a bit of both.
Okay.
There are moments where they explicitly try to create new inside jokes or memes.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of it just stems from their natural back and forth, riffing off each other, escalating the absurdity.
Like a comedic improv troupe,
Yeah.
but in text form.
Yeah. And they weren't afraid to push the boundaries of humor,
That's true.
especially Soviet.
Yeah, some of the stuff is a little...
Yeah. It can get pretty dark, pretty offensive to an outsider.
Right.
But it's important to remember that this was a closed community.
Right.
They felt comfortable pushing each other's buttons, testing those limits.
It's like a pressure valve almost.
Yeah, like a controlled environment where they can just vent through humor and knowing that everyone understands the context
Exactly.
and won't take it personally.
But even in this safe space, there were conflicts.
Oh, right.
Like the war with Vori.
Yeah, Vari's resistance to this whole absurdity of ewaaac is really interesting.
Yeah.
Almost highlights the tension between order and chaos
Right.
that exists in any community.
Yeah, it's like Vari represented the need for structure for meaning. And then everyone else was embracing the freedom of just nonsense.
Exactly. And the fact that they went to war, right,
Over this just speaks to how deeply they were invested in ewaaac.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just a silly chat room. It was
Yeah.
something that mattered, something worth fighting for.
Even if the battleground was just memes.
Right, exactly.
But did anyone ever actually try to say, what ewaaac meant to them?
There are a few instances
Okay.
where members do attempt to define ewaaac.
Really?
Some describe it as a shared bond.
Okay.
Others call it a cult. Some even reduce it to just a meme.
Okay.
But they all acknowledge that it represented something unique in their online experience.
It's like they were trying to put words to something that
Yeah.
you can't really describe.
It was more than just the messages.
Right.
It was a feeling, an
I think
experience.
it's shared reality.
Exactly. And that shared reality was almost lost when ewaaac was deleted.
Right.
And, this wasn't just technically confusing.
Yeah.
It really highlights the emotional attachment
Yeah.
that people had formed to this silly space. And their reactions to it being deleted and then coming back were just...
It was a mix of shock disbelief,
Yeah.
pure joy, like a collective trauma,
Why?
and then a collective catharsis.
It's really remarkable how strong the emotional response was.
Yeah, it suggests that it wasn't just amusement.
Right.
It was a place where they felt connected, understood, accepted.
So to circle back to Boop Doop's question,
Yeah.
what is ewaaac?
It's a digital paradox.
A digital paradox.
Absurdity breeds connection nonsense, becomes meaningful,
Right.
and that line between chaos and community is just constantly blurred.
It's a reminder that even in this vast, impersonal landscape of the internet,
Yeah.
we crave connection.
We crave shared experience.
Yeah.
A sense of belonging.
And sometimes we find it in the most unexpected places.
Right?
ewaaac might seem like just random messages to an outsider, but for those who are part of it,
Yeah.
it was a world unto itself.
A microcosm of the internet's ability to foster community, create meaning, and most importantly, make us laugh.
You know, we've been really focused on this specific ewaaac thing,
Yeah.
but I kind of want to zoom out for a second.
Okay.
And like, what does this whole saga tell us about online communities, like in general?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, ewaaac in its own way is like a microcosm of the internet itself. It shows how these online spaces can evolve so quickly,
Right.
how they can create connections through these shared experiences,
Yeah.
and how they can become incredibly meaningful to the people involved,
Yeah.
even if those experiences seem totally nonsensical
Right.
to outsiders.
It's like they found this little hidden corner of the internet
Yeah,
and created their own little world.
right, with their own rules,
Yeah.
their own language.
Their own jokes.
And that world, as absurd as it might seem, provided this sense of belonging,
Okay.
a space where they could just be themselves without judgment, like
Yeah.
a refuge almost
Yeah.
from the curated perfection that we
Oh.
see so much of online.
It was a place where imperfection was celebrated. Mistakes were turned into jokes.
Yeah.
And that pressure to be cool or popular just didn't exist.
So it's like a counterculture
Kind of.
within the internet itself.
Yeah, rejecting those norms.
Right.
Those expectations of the wider online world.
And I think that's what drew people to it.
Yeah, that sense of freedom.
Right.
That space where they could let go.
And just embrace the absurdity.
Exactly.
So in a way, like ewaaaac's lack of purpose became its purpose.
Yeah.
It was defined by what it wasn't.
Right, and that's a powerful idea.
Yeah.
It suggests that you don't always need this grand plan
Right.
or a specific goal to create something meaningful online.
Huh.
Sometimes the most powerful connections
Yeah.
come from these shared experiences.
Right.
Shared laughter,
Yeah.
a shared sense of the absurd.
And those connections, like we saw with the whole dilution and resurrection,
Yeah.
can be really resilient.
It's true, even when the platform is gone.
The community finds a way to rebuild, to reconnect,
Yeah.
to reignite that spark that brought them together in the first place.
So it's really a testament
Yeah.
to that human need to connect,
To belong.
to find your people.
Exactly. Even if your people speak a language of memes and inside jokes
Right.
that only they understand.
So to bring it all the way back
Yeah.
to Boop Doop, who was just totally confused by this whole ewaaac thing,
Right.
maybe the takeaway isn't about understanding the specific jokes or the references,
Yeah.
but about recognizing the power of that shared experience.
Yeah. Of finding your people online,
Yeah.
creating a space where you can be yourself,
Right.
no matter how weird or wonderful that self might be.
Well said.
ewaaac in its own chaotic way reminds us that the internet is more than just computers. It's a reflection of ourselves. Our desires, our anxieties, our need to connect with others.
Yeah.
And sometimes the most profound connections come from shared laughter.
Shared absurdity.
And the simple joy of being part of something bigger than ourselves.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of ewaaac. We hope you've enjoyed this journey into the heart of digital absurdity, and that you'll join us again next time as we explore another fascinating corner of the online world. Until then, happy exploring.